Champlain Valley superintendents worked last year to identify patterns of the complex needs that we were seeing in our public schools. And there were four major areas that came up. And violent outbursts and vandalism, sexualized behavior, disruption, defiance, eloping, threats of harm to self or others were four of the most prominent issues that we were seeing. We've even for the first time in the last year started to hear from some of our alternative programs that the needs of the students that we're referring are too great for them to meet within that alternative therapeutic program. So what happens is they get released back to public schools, and that comes back onto us to try to figure out how to meet their needs because their needs are too great for those placements. And then we've already talked about this a little, no access when we get to the most extensive level. And again, those students are still in our public schools because they're not able to access those residential placements. And we can't say that children can't attend our schools, except in very rare circumstances. So what this means is that schools have students, often in many of our cases, many students, whose placements in our public schools don't match the intensity and complexity of their needs. So they're in the least restrictive environment with needs that can be at the level that would historically have resulted in something like residential treatment.
Currently, as Lynn pointed out, public schools are in a crisis. Every school system has students who are explosive in ways that we have never seen before. My district is not immune to this. Teachers are quite literally scared, and administrators are at a loss. People are getting hurt, and rooms are being trashed. There are no options for our schools, and students who need immediate support have nowhere to go. Spaces. We currently have one classroom that is covered in plywood because of the amount of damage that students have done to the walls. I spend my morning reshelving books in my elementary school's library after a child ripped nearly 500 of them off the shelves. The behaviors we're seeing in a small percentage of our youngest students are volatile and explosive. In our adolescents, the behavior shifts inward. We have a significant increase in the number of calls we have made regarding suicidal ideation.
Thinking about yesterday about how I wanted to communicate this part. All of this is having an impact on stakeholders at all levels. We have students that are not getting their mental health needs met. And we have staff, teachers, and administrators who are approaching burnout and if they're not already there. So there comes a point, a breaking point, where things start to break. And I think that we are dangerously close to a breaking point with all that we're trying to hold in public education.
Just how are the other students doing? Are you able to maintain, some peace and order in the schools without it being disrupted every day? No one's answering this. I'm good.
Go ahead,
I think that the reality is I think we're having disruptions in our school every day. I think we're all doing the best we can to try to minimize that impact on other students. But other students are seeing things that similar cohorts of students would not have seen 5 and 10 years ago. So I think that there's an impact on our students. And the other piece that I think Libby did a good job of representing is it's not only the students and the impact, it's also the staff, the teachers who are trying to teach those classes that have been here for a decade or 2 decades. They're seeing fundamentally the shift in what the work is now. And it's very different given our current reality and the needs they're trying to serve in those classrooms.